Welcome to the Rethink Leadership podcast with me, Jeremy Blain. I interview leaders, experts and business professionals from around the world who are bringing leadership principles and know-how into the digitally driven 21st century workplace, with focus firmly on the how-to rather than the what. Each episode is in aid of a charity chosen by my guests, and since 2020, we've made donations to over 80 global and local causes. Welcome to this week's Rethink Leadership podcast with my guest, Gaurav Arora, a West Delhi lad who's paved his way to being an MCC coach, of which there are only 3% of wannabes worldwide to attain this honour. Gaurav was named 2019 ICF Young Leader of the Year and is a sought-after facilitator-coach-mentor-speaker who's been transforming lives and leaders for almost 20 years. What makes Gauravs stand out is his knack for cutting through the noise and sparking aha moments, whether it's using storytelling, exploring ontology, or creating his own frameworks. He's a master of innovation and a coaching evangelist. And, did I mention, he also hosts his own podcast, the xMonks Drive, which I can highly recommend you seek out on your platform of choice. Gaurav, thank you very much for joining me. Please tell us a little bit about yourself, your business, and your beliefs as a coach and a Young Leader Award winner.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jeremy. Such a pleasure, and especially for someone who is always behind the camera in terms of being a host of the podcast. Being a guest is always a pleasant surprise because that's where you can actually experience what happens when you are being a guest. When all those questions are thrown at you, what different emotions you go through. So I'm an executive coach, a leadership coach. I'm a podcaster, apart from all the other hats that I wear. Um, for as long as I've known myself, Jeremy, I've always called myself as an evangelist of coaching. I love talking about coaching. I love educating people about coaching. Starting from doing road shows to educate people on what coaching is and what it is not and the impact that it can create. I've done it all. Today, I run an organization called xMonks in India. It's known as the Warrior Monk. We are partners to a few international companies where we represent their services and their products in the country. And we are on a mission to make India the coaching capital of the world. And I believe being a coach is a blessing. I mean, you cannot make it happen. It happens to you. Like love happens to you, spirituality happens to you. Similarly, coaching happens to you. And as a coach, I'm just a conduit from where the other person can blow the flute that I am and listen to their own music. Now, the quality of the music that they are going to create depends entirely on the hollowness that I'm going to offer. Or I can say the hollowness that's going to offered through me. So that's where I am. Yeah.
Right. Well, I can tell you're an evangelist around this. You speak very passionately about it. And maybe I can go into a little bit more of your journey because you've had an impressive journey. If you could tell us a little bit more about being an MCC coach, but also particularly about the 2019 award that you had of being the ICF Young Leader Award winner.
Yeah. MCC, Jeremy, thank you for bringing that and mentioning that. I started my coaching journey. I just got lucky in mid-20s, 2020, 2005 and 7. That was the time when I just got lucky. I was working in an organization and my super boss said, "Hey, Gaurav, there's this new beast coming to India called coaching. We don't know much about coaching. Would you be comfortable offering this program to your existing clients?" And least did I expect that after 18 years, right now in 2024, I will be talking and I'll be breathing and I'll be sleeping and I'll be inhaling, I'll be drinking, coaching. So the journey that began just to sell one of those services, and it continued. And that's the reason I tell people that I was a chosen one. It's not that I have done something remarkable or I've done something out of the world. It's just that I got lucky. I was reading something in the morning where I was talking about what is grace. Grace is something that happens to you that you were not even expecting in your life. 20 years back, did I expect that I would be a master certified coach by ICF? My answer is no. Did I expect that I would be one of the top 6 young leaders in the space of coaching? My answer is no. So there's so many things that have happened to me in my life, Jeremy, which I think it's nothing less than grace. So, as I said, that being an evangelist helped me to get in touch with all the right people in the industry. And one step at a time, I was hoisting ICF India flag worldwide. I was representing ICF in 2012 in Singapore. I was representing ICF India in 2013, 14, and 15 in the US as the president of ICF India. So all those things, when they compounded together, I got an award. And MCC, if I just keep the credentials of MCC on one side, of course, it has its own merit. But I think any credential that you have, be it ACC, PCC, or MCC, or for that matter, you become a doctor, you do your MBBS, then you do your MD, and then you do your DM, or for that matter, you do your bachelor's, master's, PhD. I think it has to do with the investment of energy and the love that you're going to offer to one subject. Rest, everything falls in place. That's what I believe in. But yeah, the question is, um, how willing are you to suck at one thing? If you're really willing to suck at one thing, you'll be able to uh, chisel your craft. And when people ask me, Gaurav, when would I be able to do the way you do coaching, or when would I be able to ask questions the way you ask questions? When would I be able to listen the way you listen in a conversation? I tell them 2 things. One is it's happening through me. So I don't have an answer to that. That's one. Second, the number of hours that I have flunked and I've failed, you don't know that. You don't know the other part of the story. You only know what is visible to you. And I think that's where magic happens when when one is willing to share the story behind those credentials, those 3-letter words. So, yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It's certainly something I've learned to do a lot as a leader myself as well, show that vulnerability, and how you demonstrated a little bit of courage to get through it or asked for help from others. It means a lot, and it kind of puts you on a level playing field, which is where we should be as
Absolutely.
leaders.
Yeah.
And that's where I want to pick your brains now, because we're both passionate about transformational leadership, around leading in a world where there's a lot of noise out there. There's digital transformation, workforce transformation, and I've got my own leader shift. The learning curve that our leaders are on now is steeper than it ever has been. So as a coach, you see a lot of leaders internationally and locally, I know. So what do you see at the moment being the areas where leaders are making the most progress, but also the areas where they need most help?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. Let me just twist this question a little bit. Where do they need a lot of shift in? I don't think that I'm the right person to address. Where are they making a lot of shift? It will be irrelevant for me to share my limited experience, because I'll be talking from my experience. I can share with you the leaders that I worked with who have inspired me, and what is it that they have to offer to the world that, if we can learn from these leaders, would make a remarkable difference. Let me just share one of those examples with you. Let me just few examples with you. Right now, I'm currently working with one of the leaders from a technology company. I think if I look at this leader, his ability to bring people together and operate from a space of don't know is remarkable. I mean, this guy runs one of the biggest technology companies in the country in India. He's one of the finest brain when it comes to uh, AI and generative AI, especially because they are doing a lot of work there. And at the same time, his ability to bring all the experts together in a room and facilitate a conversation so that we can get the best out of all those people is remarkable. And there I am sitting in one of the corners and wondering, shucks, man, look at this guy, the kind of humility that he's bringing in, the kind of questions that he's asking, and the kind of courtesies that he has to ask, hey, I don't know, can you please tell me, what would you do in this space? And it's not that he's asking those questions from people who are reporting into him or who are a part of his organization only. When he's inviting people, the experts from different organizations as well, who probably are contemporaries. So he's least concerned about the status quo that most of the leaders get stuck with. He's willing to come out of that. That's what I think. So if I were to look at few traits, I would say humility. I would definitely call it, how willing are you to operate from a space of I don't know. Your willingness and ability to listen to the other person and add a lot of humor and laugh at yourself. I think it's an underrated trait. And are you an ease to work with? I think it's one of the most underrated traits in the world today. People would talk about aggression, people would talk about vision, people would talk about strategic thinking, people would talk about all the good sounding words. What we don't rate is, I think, are you an ease to work with? Can you mobilize people? Can you bring all the people together? Are you a connector? Can you operate from a space of, I don't know? Do you listen? Do you have humility? Do you have what's required to laugh at yourself? I think these are underrated skills and much more, much needed in today's world to make this world a comfortable place to work in.
Yeah, they resonate with me hugely, and particularly operating from a space of I don't know. Knowing what
Yeah.
to do when you don't know what to do is one of those discomfort levels that leaders are having to get more and more used to,
Yeah.
including myself as a practicing leader as well.
Oh,
And
absolutely. Yeah.
I would probably add that to your list. Something from my own leadership experience, which is being an everyday learner as
Yeah.
well, because we just can't afford not to be.
Yeah.
Our people see. Now, I am going to put you on the spot a little bit here because I also work with leaders, and I see a lot of what you said there, particularly that humor piece. I think is very important. Sometimes that self-depreciating humor can come in
Yeah.
quite nicely. It can put us on a level playing field with others, help people feel more comfortable as long as it's appropriate and all of that. And almost it almost follows that question that you said is, how easy am I to work with?
Yeah.
But I know, and you know, that there are, let's say, more traditional leaders out there, 20th century leaders, let's call them, who
Mm.
are struggling to get a platform in the 21st century. And if we're to be the voice of the employees on podcasts like this as well, we really need to call out some of the more damaging behaviors that
Mm.
leaders that we observe without naming names can demonstrate at the moment that are more harmful to the organization. So if you think about kind of your experiences out there, what are those leaders who are not making progress doing that is damaging their
What a,
organization or the
what a
people?
What a beautiful question, Jeremy, it is. I'll not name anyone, rather, I'll put myself on the spot and tell you what I'm not doing in my journey as a leader, which I know is costing me fortune, right? 3 days back, I was meditating and I was just sitting quietly and I was wondering, where am I in my life? And I was meditating on I am and just being in the silence and just seeing and allowing things to happen to me. And a thought came to me that people don't give up on their goals, people give up on themselves. I opened my eyes. I said, wow, what a beautiful thought it is. Let me just be with this thought for some time. And I said, why am I not being able to get in shape, the kind of shape that I would like to be in? Right? Why still have bulge around my stomach? Why do I have extra fat around my waist? And while I was thinking about that, I realized because I don't have the discipline that's required to shed that extra weight. Now, similarly, I was looking at other areas in my life as a leader or the different roles and the responsibilities that has been offered to me in my role as somebody who is facilitating the conversations among team members at xMonks. And I said that people don't give up on their goals, people give up on themselves. Because in the journey, when I get tired, I said, let me just give it up. I cannot make it happen. So in that case, I'm not giving up on my goal. What I'm doing is that I'm giving up on myself. And if I look at all the areas, that's what really happens. When I know I'm not being able to be fair to everyone in my team, right? And why I'm not being able to be fair to everyone in my team, because I'm operating from a space of fear that in case I will not be nice to so and so person, then the person might leave me and would cost me the business that they are getting in the organization. Or when I'm not being assertive to somebody because there's a fear that I've been operating from, that in case I am assertive to this person, the person might not see me in good light, and I would not be able to hold the personality trait that I've been holding on, that Gaurav is a nice human being. Now, similarly, there's so much status quo that I've been living with. I call them hooks, right? There's so many areas where I'm hooked at, I'm not been able to unhook them. And as Carl Jung said, that unless you bring your unconscious to your conscious, it will continue to drive your life and you will call it fate. And the way I call it is that unless you make a shift in your life, unless you unhook, which is holding you and that you can't even see, unless you unhook that, the patterns will continue to remain in your life. Only faces would change. Only faces would change. Now, coming back to your question, what are those behaviors which could be toxic in leaders? In my life, I know my inability to say no, my inability to get into a face-to-face adult to adult conversation and negotiate hurts me in the organization. My inability to create a level play in the organization hurts me. In my organization, I know that I am being unfair to few people. I have been unfair to few people in the past. I know that I'm uh, a little biased towards few people. So all these traits in long run, why in long run? In short term as well, they are hurting me and they are costing me fortune. Forget about growing the business. It's not helping me to grow as an individual. Leadership is far-fetched. It's not even helping me to be the human being that I would like to be, right? Leadership, I don't know if in this lifetime I'll be able to be the leader that's written in the books. One thing is for sure, if I continue to behave the way I'm behaving, if I continue to walk on the path that I'm walking on right now, uh, I'll cut a very sorry figure for myself as a human. When God would ask me, Gaurav, uh, I made you human being, and then I sent you to Mother Earth. How was your journey? How was that voyage? And I would say, you know what, God, I'm really sorry. I did not do justice to all the trust that you bestowed on me. I'm sorry. So I know I'll have to cut a sorry figure.
Well, I think you're being a little bit hard on yourself.
Or
from,
being truthful.
from
Confrontation
listening
at
to
times is
yeah.
important.
Yes, there's that's it. But part of that is the journey. It
Yeah.
might not be a destination. It might be your guide,
Yep.
and living that journey every day. And the fact is that you're aware and that you acknowledge some of these things, is that kind of your mindset is in exactly the right place for this.
You know, the
And
awareness at times could be really painful. That's the reason people say ignorance is bliss.
yeah, it is that. Yes, I know. Well, it's funny because as you've been talking, I've been writing a few things down, and what we've come out with almost is a little bit of a force field analysis here, because you first started with talking about those enablers like humility, operating from that honest space of what I don't know, humor, listening, how easy am I to work with, collaborate with, and then some barriers, my own personal discipline or self-discipline, if you like, the lack of meaningful conversations with people, conscious bias, which was a big one there, giving up on myself because I just don't know how to do something going forward. Wearing a mask as well, because I want people to see me in one way, but then I can't have an authentic conversation. I think we've got a great template here, actually, from what from what you've been talking about. So moving forward from that template, Gaurav, is that you make a real difference. I know you demonstrate humility beautifully and very honestly and openly, but I know that you have a huge positive impact on others. And your philosophy in life and at work and as a coach particularly is around blending gratitude, authenticity, and that seeking of continuous growth. So how do you help others commit to that mentally
Yeah,
so that there's a mindset shift and then help them on the journey?
yeah, yeah. Um, I think two words that you've already picked up. I think only if we can operate from that space, the world would be a beautiful place. One is Shukrana, I call it. Um, it's known as gratitude. And the second one is authenticity. In my work and in my limited understanding, Jeremy, uh, I personally believe that the three basic desires of a human soul is expression, connection, and contribution. Uh, Mark Twain once said that the two happiest days for an individual is one, the day you are born. The second one is you realize why you are born. Having said that, most of us continue to walk on this path called life without even identifying, without even discovering our divine expression. I remember my conversation with one of the artisans in Bali. I was in Bali. I was in one of those beautiful artisan villages, and there was this guy, this gentleman, who was painting something. He was actually sketching something. I looked at that. I was awestruck with what he was sketching, right? And I said, "Hey, excuse me, what's your name?" And he did not look up, did not answer. I said, "Hey, excuse me, what's your name?" He did not reply. And I said, I don't know what kind of a nerd he is. He was not even looking at that. Human beings are so easy to judge, to come to the conclusions and judgments so easily. And I've been a nerd of first category. And the interesting part is you are a nerd and then you're proud of that. No, it's like Pitbull says, I'm sexy and I know it. You're a nerd and you know it. Uh, so I called him two times, and third time I said, oh, he's a ridiculously arrogant guy. He's not even willing to look at me. And I was about to leave that small hut. And there was a plaque kept there. There was another gentleman who was standing there. I said, why doesn't he reply to me? He pointed towards that plaque. It says, plaque said, my name is Skipper and I cannot speak. Not everyone is given the faculty of speech. Some people express through paintbrushes and colors. For me, that was a life-changing experience, Jeremy, for several reasons. One, I realized that how easy was it for me to come to a conclusion and judge someone who's just happy, sketching, and indulging into his divine expression. And the second one is that we all have this basic desire to express ourselves, because through our expression, we communicate. Your being is an expression. The second basic desire of a human soul is connection, right? And unless you've been able to identify your divine expression, you'll not be able to tap into your essence. And that's the reason why we find it so difficult to connect with ourselves, forget about connecting with others. And then we talk about contribution. And I wonder, how can you contribute from an empty container that you are? One, I'm not being able to identify my own expression. What is my divine gift? What is my divine expression? And that's the reason I'm not being able to connect with my own self, forget about my connection with others. So there's so much of disconnect that I experience, be it my disconnection with money, be it my disconnection with time, be it with my disconnection with authority, be it the disconnection with other gender. And every time when I experience that disconnect, I create a wall of separation, an invisible wall of separation between me and you. So either I would position you here or I'll position myself here. There's always a wall of separation. So forget about experience and tapping into the oneness. And then where is the question of uh, contribution? Now, I'm on that journey to explore that expression, connection, and contribution for myself. And as I said, expression is all about finding your own voice. And as in Stephen Covey's book, eighth habit, he talks about find your own voice and help other people find their voice. That's what contribution is all about. So that's the journey I'm on to. I know the path, I have the map. The interesting part is I'm still on level one. I'm still trying to find my own expression. So I find it difficult to connect with my own self. I find it difficult to connect with others. Contribution is a little ahead in my journey. Someday I'll get there for sure. So that's the path that I take.
Yeah, you're very open about yourself, and I think you're making a lot more progress than you probably give yourself credit for. We are our own worst critics after all. But I like that roadmap almost, that thinking about how we express ourselves as leaders, as humans, as whatever we are, um, how we connect with ourselves first and then with others, how we contribute, and then how that lived experience helps us to continue to grow. And ask the questions that you're asking of yourselves. How do I keep going on this path that I'm on, but getting better or growing or whatever? I really like that flow that's come that's come from there.
Yeah.
And I think if you had kind of a couple of pieces of key advice for
Hmm.
leaders who are struggling today,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
the people in business who are very even very capable people, you know,
Yeah.
at the top, we don't know, some people just don't know how hard it is at the top of our organizations.
Uh,
If you had two pieces of advice for those leaders who are very capable but really finding it tough, what would they be?
I would say, bloody keep struggling and enjoying the process. There's no other way, right? The act of creation begins with the act of destruction. Uh, be willing to get consumed so that tomorrow you don't have any regret that you did not give it your best shot. Um, make a sincere attempt to let go of and release every single ounce of ego that you carry, every single of identity that you carry, because the only way to get over your identity is the act of disidentification. It's going to be hard, but there's no other way. Find a tribe for yourself. Uh, get get in touch with people who can actually assist you. Find your own guru, find your own spiritual master. I find my uh, solace with Guru Gobind Singh Ji, with Ramana Maharishi, with all the leaders that Eckhart Tolle. I love reading about what he has written, the kind of work that he has done. I think in all these, I'll not call them scriptures, but all these books, if you look at, all of them have spoken about to disidentify yourself from anything that you're identifying yourself with. It is bloody painful, Jeremy. Is it an advice to others? My answer is no. It's absolutely no advice to you. I'm nobody to give you an advice. I'm telling you what I'm up to, what I'm doing in my life. One of my masters told me this: anything that you identify with is going to dominate you. Anything that you identify yourself with is going to dominate you, be it this white color shirt, or um, this is how I carry my beard, or that's the kind of hairstyle I should have, or that's the kind of equipment that I use, or that's the kind of mobile that I use. Um, Anything that you identify with is going to dominate you. When people ask me, are you a Hindu? I tell them, I don't know, but I'm born in a Hindu family. When people ask me, Gaurav, are you a coach? I tell them, I don't know, but that's what I'm doing these days. People ask me, Gaurav, what should we be preparing people so that we should prepare to live a peaceful, holistic life? I tell them, start preparing to die. They're like random thoughts. They're like ridiculously random thoughts. Why? Because I'm experimenting. So I don't have an answer. I don't have a response. Just experiment.
That's good. I like that, because then that can surprise, it can bring the conversation out, can't it? But I like what you first said. It's that kind of embrace that struggle, find your tribe and embrace that struggle together. Get help from where you need it, and leave your ego at the door. That's a very good piece of advice. And before we close, Gaurav, I would like to, as a fellow podcast host, I would like to give you the opportunity just to plug your own podcast as well. Tell us about the xMonks Drive podcast, where
Yeah.
people can tune in and what's it about.
Okay. Oh, thank you so much, Jeremy. X monks, if you look at the name itself, it comes from the warrior monk. The warrior monk means saint soldier. The Hindi translation of saint soldier is Sant Sipahi. The Sant Sipahi was the term coined by Guru Gobind Singh Ji. Now, Guru Gobind Singh Ji was the 10th Guru of Sikh religion, Sikh philosophy, you may call it. Uh, I just love this philosophy. He says you should be willing to pull the sword in service of others. Now, Guru Gobind Singh Ji was the best of the poets. He was the best of the warriors. He was the best of the saints. He was the best of the artists. I mean, whatever he did, he was at the helm of things. And you could not, one cannot put him in a box. Now, the what amongst all the conversation that I get into, it's all about deeper explorations. It's about finding who you are. And the moment you come to some conclusion, okay, this is who I am, then start working toward destroying that identity. So that whatever would be left is who you are. Now, in order to experience what is left is you have to destroy. One has to destroy all the boxes, right? So in my understanding, that's what it means to think out of the box. Now, having said that, I get into conversations with thought leaders, coaches, leaders at the C-suite level to understand what goes in their mind, what are their struggles, what is it that they're seeking for in their life, that despite everything that one can ask for, there are still struggles in one's life, and how to decode that, right? It's a journey of self-exploration. It's a platform to hold the space for others and for myself with compassion, where we all can live our life from a space of self-awareness, self-acceptance, joy, courage, possibilities, and shukrana, which is gratitude. So in case you would like to know more about the work that we are doing, you can go to YouTube channel. I have my own YouTube channel. You can find our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the other platforms. We have already done over 170 episodes. It's gunning well. If there's one thing that I enjoy the most is podcasting. I love interacting with people because every conversation leaves me with something to ponder on. So
I completely agree with you there. We learn so much as hosts, and I do take nuggets. I've got a little rolling document actually that after every conversation with the notes that I've captured, I capture some key bites and it goes in my pocket. Then you know. Well, look, it's been such an enjoyable and insightful conversation, and hearing your own journey and your how you're demonstrating a lot of the things that you've been talking about here. So Gaurav, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much, Jeremy, and I look forward to having more conversations with you, learn from you, grow with you, and have fun in life.
Thanks for tuning in to the Rethink Leadership podcast with me, Jeremy Blain. Please like, comment, and support us on your favourite platform, and subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can watch as well as listen to each episode.